One school day, a boy named Tom sat in class, bent over his math homework. The clock on the wall ticked down to the final minutes before school ended. 6 minutes to be exact. Tom could feel the anticipation in the air, the itch for freedom just around the corner. His pencil scratched across the paper, but his mind wandered. Then something caught his eye. His desk was next to the window, and he turned, looking out across the grass outside. The scene was eerie, too still, too perfect, like a painting frozen in time, as if something was waiting for him to notice it. When the bell rang, Tom bolted from his seat. His heart raced, not just from excitement of leaving, but because he knew something was calling him. He ran to the spot where he had seen the strange image outside. His feet pounded against the floor as he pushed past the other students, determined to reach it first. There, lying in the grass, was a picture, unmistakable in its vivid detail. Tom picked it up, his breath catching in his throat. The image was of a girl. She was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. Her soft, pale skin, the vibrant red of her shoes, and the way she held up the peace sign, as though she were inviting him into her world. Tom's heart fluttered. He wanted to meet her. He had to. He ran through the school asking everyone he could find if they knew her, but no one had ever seen her before. Confusion gnawed at him, a creeping unease he couldn't shake. Why had the picture ended up here? Who was she? At home, Tom's frustration grew. He asked his older sister, but she shook her head. "I've never seen her before," she said, her voice strange, almost distant. That night, as the house fell silent, Tom walked upstairs and placed the picture on his bedside table. The faint hum of the night air seemed to settle around him as he crawled under the covers, trying to forget about the unsettling image. But sleep wouldn't come. In the dead of night, a soft tapping at his window pulled Tom from his restless slumber. It was a faint sound, like nails dragging across glass. His heart skipped a beat. He stared at the window, his pulse quickening. After a moment, a giggle echoed in the dark, distant but unmistakable. Tom's breath caught in his throat. He saw a shadow moving outside. It was too quick, too unnatural. With trembling hands, he got out of bed and walked toward the window. His fingers lingered on the handle, as if his body were reluctant to obey. He opened the window, the cold air rushing in, and stepped outside, following the giggle into the night. The darkness swallowed him whole. By the time he reached the spot, the sound had stopped. The shadow was gone. His breath came in shallow gasps as he stood there, alone, the night eerily still around him. The next day, he asked his neighbors, his friends, even strangers passing by, but no one knew the girl. Everyone answered with a simple no. When his mother returned home, he asked her the same thing. She paused for a long moment before answering, her face unreadable. "No, Tom, I've never seen her before." That night, he placed the picture on his desk and lay in bed, his mind racing. The giggling, the tapping, it had to mean something. But what? The answer came again in the dead of night. The tapping, louder this time, sharper. Tom took the picture and, his hands shaking, followed the sound once more. He crossed the street, determined to find the girl, to understand what she wanted. The world seemed to hold its breath as he stepped into the road. Then suddenly, headlights blared. A car swerved, but it was too late. Tom's body crumpled to the ground, the picture still clutched in his cold hand. Blood pooled beneath him, staining the street. The driver rushed out of the car, his voice shaky as he tried to help, but it was no use. Tom was gone, his life snuffed out in an instant. The driver stood there, staring at the boy's lifeless body. His eyes landed on the picture in Tom's hand, and without thinking, he picked it up. He looked down, and all he saw was a cute girl holding up 3 fingers.